Shalom is real quick video. I'm gonna cut more into this. Probably do a couple more videos today about it, and concerning Edom, concerning Idumea, which is basically the same thing. Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Rakakadash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the apostle, elder bishops, great millstone, much salutations to the brother teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be elect, most high will, to hopefully extend elect, shalom, blessings. And I'm going to get a video about the war, too. I think Israel struck Iran again, and Iran retaliated, and it was some death. So, I'm looking to that a little bit. So the war is hot. Things are going on. Things are getting judged. Now, you got the Edomites, which are so-called white people, saying today that the Edomites, they no longer exist. And right here it says, now you know about, if you don't know, Herod, the one that was, searching to have Yahushai slain. He was an Edomite, and his father was known as Antipater the Idumean. And I looked up, I said, I asked, was Idumeans a people? Yes, the Idumeans or Idumeans were a distinct and ancient Semitic people. They were the Greek and the Roman name for the Edomites, a population historically known in biblical accounts as the descendants of Esau, the Greeks and the Romans. And then I asked, are Romans still here? And it said, are the Greeks and Romans here today? Yes, the descendants of the ancient Greeks and Romans are here today, primarily known as the modern population of Greece and Italy, while the ancient empires no longer exist. Yeah, the empires, the people, their languages, and their cultural DNA remain fundamental to modern European society. So that means the Edomites are still here today in the form of the Greek, the Romans, the Dutch, the English, the Spaniards, and of course Jake was scattered across the lands and scattered across the world. So, Jake could grow up in England, and he could be called an Englandman, man, Depends on, how he expresses it by who he talks to. Sometimes he might be saying, I'm a black man. Other times he might say, I'm English. So those factors play a part, but, this is an actual race of people that are still here, the Idumeans. So there's no way they could be done away with. And I'll get that scripture where it says the Most High has Isaiah 34:5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Idumea is Esau. Because Idumea it'll tell you, it means red. It's a Greek word for Edom, and Edom means red. So that lets you know that that red that it was talking about an actual person, going back to Esau and Jacob. Wasn't metaphoric, and that's why they try to put that on the Native Americans, or they try to put that on. They say, well, they done away with, or well, he was ruddy. They try to change that narrative because they know that red is applying. It's applying to an actual person. But Idumea, let me see. Edom, and the word is supposed to be Adawam, because Adam was not an Edomite. Adam just means from the ground. When the Most High said that about Edom when he came, Esau when he came out the womb, and it says Esau is the father of the Edomites, he didn't say he didn't come from the ground. He came from his mother's womb, Rebecca's womb. So that's definitely different from Adam. Adam means from the ground. Esau doesn't mean that. Esau, as he says, wasted away his heat when he came out the womb. And he said he was red all over like an hairy garment. Therefore, his name was Esau. And Esau is the father of the Edomites, which are red people. Doesn't have nothing to do with from the ground, because they wasn't, so to speak, born from the makeup of all of us, or come from that origin of Adam being from the ground, but we come out of our mother's womb. That's why it says, as soon as he be born, speaketh lies, he was murdered, and he estranged from the womb. It also says about Miriam, when she was cursed, they said, don't leave her as one half consumed when he come out of his mother's womb. So Edom, right here, it says red. Idumea. So after all the descendants, going back to Esau being born in Genesis, you got all the way to where, coming into the Romans, where you got, Antipater, the Idumea, you got, and then they said, they come from, I looked up this other thing, it says Antipater, the Idumean, was the founder of the Herodian dynasty. See, they got a whole dynasty and the power behind the throne of Judea. And remember, the apostle said, the Herodians, they kind of looked like Jake, but they were Edomites, just like this picture portray here, the bus. So, they might have looked like mixed kids, whatever. I want to try to mention somebody as an example. Maybe some of those that are we know are to be Edom, like Diana Ross's daughter, she could easily be a Idumean, but look like Jake. It says by forging alliances with rising Roman leaders, he secured the title of procurator of Judea from Julius Caesar, paving the way for his son Herod the Great to become king of Judea. So, and then it talks about a forced conversion, and it kind of makes sense, because during the Hasmonean dynasty, when King David and King Solomon, even King Solomon reigned for 40 years. And King David, we had the Idumeans in subjection. So they, basically coming under that royalty of the Israelites, King David and King Solomon, they can easily feel like they was forced to convert. Which it's it echoes and prove that we're going to make these people do the law. When we have them in subjection, we're going to make these nations keep the law. It says, rise to power, born in Idumea, biblical Edom, south of Judea. He served as a governor of the region under the later Hasmonean kings. After Hasmonean civil wars weakened the Jewish kingdom, Antipater positioned himself as an indispensable ally to the Roman Republic. See, so the split started to happen with the two kingdoms of under King Solomon, Jeroboam and Rehoboam. Being a kind of like a staple of that. To where even Jeroboam asked help from the heathen instead of his brother Rehoboam, because that's that separation. And the Assyrian Empire that was ruling over the northern kingdom, Israel. Uh, they were they were much hard on them, especially if they asked help from Syria, which became an independent, so to speak, state city. What would you call it? Yeah, it became its own independent sovereignty country, if you will. But kind of like what they do with Russia and Ukraine. But couldn't get enough help, so to speak. So and our people, Jeroboam, he fled to Egypt. So you got to understand the history of Egypt too. A lot of times we went to Egypt for help. That's why it says, "Woe to him that go to Egypt for help, and not ask of me," said the Lord. So our people would flee to Egypt from wrath, even from their own people, even from their own like that situation with Jeroboam and Rehoboam. But it says to weaken the Jewish kingdom. So then they came in full effect, and what did it say? Support for Rome. In 47 BCE, he provided crucial military aid to Julius Caesar during the Alexandrian War. As a reward, Caesar granted him Rome citizenship and appointed him the chief administrator of Judea. So when you take over land and you say, well, now we the Judeans, that's just what happened to these false Jews in Israel. They took over our land and called themselves us. If we took over the land of Edom, or so-called, and we took over America, we're not going to keep the name America. We wouldn't keep the name America. We would name the land after us, and which it says in the scriptures. But why did they keep Jerusalem and say that they're the Jews when we're the real Jews? And they know this. They should have kept the term Romans, or the name Roman, at least. But they really couldn't do that either, because we had Roman emperors, so to speak, the Holy Roman Empire. So really they can't fight it. They can't help but use because we're the great people that the Bible speaks of, and that the Most High has chosen of His holy nation. So they can't help but use it. If we're their main enemies, why would they? It says family appointments using his expanded authority and to pay to install his sons into key strategic positions. Phaziel, I'm not even sure I'm saying that right, became governor of Jerusalem, and Herod became governor of Galilee. See, they take over the lands. But like I said, they're here today as they were here as the Greeks, as the Romans, and they're here as the modern day Romans, the modern day Greeks, the modern day Idumeans, which were our so-called white people. They put that name for themselves to get away from the identity of Esau. And like I said, they should have used, they could have used Idumea. They could have used Romans, but they still have Roman ties, so it doesn't matter. They still exercise Roman authority right here in America as the last leg of Rome. So but they still want to renew themselves as altogether different people. They don't want no ties with what happened in the past history. That's why it says they don't want to remember the past. They're trying to wipe the past out, because it has a lot to do with the mixed fabric of us being heavily involved. That's why one reason they got rid of the Apocrypha, or they took it out the Bible, as a hidden book, the red book that we use, because the Maccabean revolt is in there. And then, if Jake read the Maccabean books, he gonna identify with it like that had to be us, man. And then they're scared of a Jake revolt, if they had read those passages. So, and that was during the Greek Empire, what they were doing. So, the same people, so-called white people, are the same people as the Greeks and the Romans, and today Americans, no different, different name. Amerigo Vespucci came along, and he was what he was. What race was Amerigo Vespucci? And they say race, nationality is different. Come on, man. Amerigo Vespucci was an Italian, and I think I'm not mistaken if the apostle said he was a Spaniard, but explorer and navigator. By modern racial or ethnic classifications, he was Caucasian. That goes back to the Caucasus Mountains. We all know what that means, cave dweller. So nobody uses that term. They don't say cave dweller today. They say Caucasian. But nobody, if you look up Caucasian, it does mean cave dweller. Just like nobody says Esau no more. But if you look up where Esau came from and how he started, you'd be like, that's the so-called white people. Anyway, I don't want to make this too long to the next video because I got other videos to do. Hope it is edifying. And I'm going to go more into this. Hopefully put some pieces, together and paint some edifying pictures, metaphorically, symbolically and all that. Because we do that, Well, you can put it, what it says, Lance Chris Columbus reached with a completely unknown new world rather than Asia, where the name America comes from. Yeah. So, I don't know if he had children, but he would. Now they say he was Italian. That goes back to that Rome thing, Rome is just the capital of Italy, but he could easily be a Romanite, a Roman. He could easily be a Greek, that same lineage. So the Idumeans are still here because they're Greeks and Romans today. But we could also be called Romans if we live in Rome, or Grecians if we lived in Greece, and that was what was happening. That's why I said neither Jew nor Greek. So, like I always said, if you have a passport and you go to another country, they ask, are you an American? You say, yeah. But if we go by the seed line, which was always the case back then, because you are of your father, that's why Yahweh Shai said that, you are of your father, the devil. But he was using as Esau as an example of them, like you acting like y'all the children of Esau, but you really Jake's. And that was a point of the matter of when it came, as a key subject to why y'all acting like this? Why y'all acting like Greeks if y'all not Greeks? Why y'all acting like, now you go over there and they say, well, yeah, Americans are known to do this and that. We like, well, and they know the black culture in America. The black culture in America is different from American culture itself. So, if you go over there, they're not going to ask about, some of the key things that America does as a country. They're going to ask, well, what about, you like rap? You like, oh, I know, your favorite, what are they going to relate to Jake topics, because, really, in all essence, we're not the children of Amerigo Vespucci, but we are the children of Israel. We are the children of God. So that's why we have different culture, customs, different kind of culture within this so-called American culture. But in any case, that lineage and the practice of family, the practice in family concerning bloodline and lineage they still do. You know, we're the only ones that kind of like fucked up about a lot of stuff because we got scattered and we started worshiping many gods. So we got into doing many different practices and doing things. So that's why we're labeled everything. We, lost tribes of Israel related to, us being niggas and spics and us, being ratchet and rats and pimps and harlots and everything but the children of Israel. Anyway, shalom.